Boris Johnson considered raiding the Dutch warehouse during the pandemic to retrieve COVID-19 vaccines. We're going to read into this more from Sky News, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Sky News with the headline that Boris Johnson considered raiding the Dutch warehouse during the pandemic to retrieve COVID-19 vaccines. The former Prime Minister also written about the moment he tried to persuade the Duke of Sussex not to move to the US with Meghan. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. So I really want to pinpoint on this absolutely crazy, insane idea of the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom considering launching some kind of raid on our European friend and ally in the EU, the Netherlands, the Netherlands, raiding one of their warehouses to steal COVID-19 vaccines from them. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane that it was even a thought or a consideration. What the implications of such a thing would have been of it. My God, the very fact that he was actually considering that or even talking about that boggles my mind. And the thing is, I just don't understand the premise and the logic behind this. Like, I'm trying to configure in my mind right now the logic and the advantage of doing something like this, and it just doesn't seem to make any logical sense whatsoever. Like, some people may try to make this argument that we need to protect British lives and we have to do anything and everything to do them, as at the expense of breaking international laws at doing so as well. I suppose that's another question that some people may ask as well. There are plenty of ways that we could have procured COVID-19 vaccines, but I just think this story in particular just sounds completely and utterly insane. And I remember when the first story came out, when the story about this came out, the rumors of it came out, and I was just thinking to myself, who on earth suggested this idea? And I generally believed it was Boris Johnson because of how mad of a person he is. And this guy was elected as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And the worst thing is that this guy is absolutely off his bloody head. He's absolutely crazy. And yet this guy could have led us into a conflict with the Netherlands over this. Could have soured the relationships were soured because of Brexit, but my God, I could just see the Netherlands along with the EU just switching off the taps of trade and everything with the UK for doing such a thing. Like, I can just imagine it now. Like, if we even attempted such a thing, I can just see them turning off the taps and switching off trade and anything along with the to the UK, and that would just destroy us economically. Like, let alone like we're already struggling as it is. But my God, it would send us into a frenzy. I can just see it, and this man has no care for consideration of the damage that he has caused. Absolutely not. Now, as for this whole thing about trying to persuade the Duke of Sussex not to move to the US, I don't think he gives a damn what Boris Johnson says in any way, shape or form. And why would you take advice from someone as a buffoon like him? I think that's all that needs to be said on that. So Boris Johnson claimed he considered authorising a raid on a warehouse in the Netherlands during the pandemic to retrieve the COVID-19 vaccines. In his upcoming memoir, he described meeting senior military officials in March 2021 to discuss the plans, which he admitted were nuts. Could you imagine being in that room where he's talking to the military officials about this? They would just look at him and say, Prime Minister, you're not being serious, are you, with this idea? Oh my God, I would love to have been a fly on the wall listening to that, because I'm sure people would have said, like, you're absolutely out of your mind. Another extract from his upcoming book released by the Daily Mail describes Mr. Johnson trying to convince the Duke of Sussex not to move to the United States. He said Downing Street and Buckingham Palace asked him to speak to Prince Harry in January 2020, hours after announcing he and his wife Meghan planned to step away from their royal life. According to Mr. Johnson, who was the Prime Minister at the time, there was a ridiculous business. It was a ridiculous business where they tried to make me persuade Harry to stay. Kind of mainly a pep talk. Totally hopeless, the Daily Mail reported. So he's trying to claim that other people tried to talk him into talking to Harry. The men met for 20 minutes on the sidelines of a UK Africa investment in London Docklands. I mean, look at that picture. Jeez. Oh my God. Okay, that's a bit more sensible one there, but... Meanwhile, the latest extract describes Mr. Johnson writing about a point during the pandemic when AstraZeneca was trying in vain to exploit the vaccines from the UK to Holland. At the time, the AstraZeneca jabs were at the heart of a cross-channel row over exports. He wrote he had commissioned some work on whether it might be technically feasible to launch an acritic raid on a warehouse in Leicester in the Netherlands, and to take what is legally ours, which the UK desperately needed. It's the international outrage that it would have caused if they had done this. There could have been many other steps they could have done to stop that. Even if this is true, he believed that the EU was treating the UK with malice and with spite due to the European rollout being slower than in the UK. Nonsense. I'm not buying this at all. It's just poor government at the time. The extract said military chiefs told Mr. Johnson the plan was certainly feasible, using rigid inflatable boats to navigate Dutch canals. But senior officers said the UK would have to explain why we are effectively invading a long-standing NATO ally. Yeah, exactly. They wanted to stop us from getting the 5 million doses, and yet they show no real signs of wanting to use AstraZeneca doses themselves, Mr. Johnson had wrote. It's still like the implementations and the fallout from such a thing being exposed for something that the UK could potentially do here is absolutely abhorrent here. Like, I totally understand this premise of the vaccines and we need them, but stealing them from another country, what kind of morality is that? What kind of country are we just stealing from others? And then all of a sudden I can see it now in the comments, but Regan, we've been stealing from the British Empire, stole from many countries and still have things that belong to other properties. You're right. And they should be returned. All the things that some of those things should be stolen. They should be returned, that things that are in the British museums and whatnot that belong originally to other countries. They should be returned. You're absolutely right. Not disagreeing with that. But for a country that considers itself to be like of a high standard, high value, high law, it's supposed to be one of the biggest, wealthiest countries in the world, to consider raiding one of their allies to get COVID-19 vaccines just really shocks me that the thought was even considered at all. But something tells me this. Part of me tells me this was something in the ear of President Putin and Russia somehow. I think they played a part in this kind of idea, putting it to the Prime Minister. I really, really do. At the time. But what do you guys honestly think? What do you guys make of this absolute absurdity of raiding the Dutch warehouse to retrieve COVID-19 vaccines? I mean, it just beggars belief, my mind. Even if AstraZeneca, if the cases was AstraZeneca were taking them out because of a deal they had with the Dutch and whatnot, there still, for me, is no justifiability whatsoever for the Prime Minister to even consider such a plan. But let me know what you guys honestly think about it all down in the comments section below. If you found this video interesting, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate shares across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for just 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.